Get your coffee and join me on GHC Coffee Break. We'll be right back.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Welcome to GHC Coffee Break. I'm very excited about my guests today, Angie Robinson and Marsha Atkins. Angie and Marsha and I have been working on some projects together. Marsha actually works for Floyd Medical Center Hospice.
Yes, Hyman Hospice Care.
Hyman Hospice Care, right here locally. She's also, I believe, an alumni of Georgia Highlands.
Yes.
That's what I thought I remembered. And Angie Robinson, actually, I was asking her what is her title now, because she is retired. I guess that's her title. But Angie, kind of, I know you're involved in a lot of things, even though you're, quote, I don't think you're really retired.
Well, I consider myself a community volunteer.
There you go. And she's been, Angie actually was one of my mentors and instructors. We won't say how long ago, but a while back, when I was a student at Georgia Highlands. And she's, it was so nice to get to reconnect with Angie. We're going to tell a little secret on Marsha, if that's all right, who her husband is.
Okay. No? Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Her husband is a writer, Raymond Atkins. And I've read a couple of his books, so it's really nice to, I didn't even know they were when I first met. Yeah. So it's really nice to, it truly is 7 degrees of separation, because there's a lot of times when we meet people that we find out that there is some connection that we had. And so it's really nice to get to know you on a personal and professional level, Marsha.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
I'm going to mention my husband's a Georgia Highlands graduate as well.
That's right. I shouldn't leave that out.
Should not.
See, we have great Georgia Highlands alumni and graduates, let me tell you. Well, let's kind of really get to why we're here today. We've been working on a project talking about traumatic grief. One of the things that Angie and I had been involved in was something called SOS, Survivors of Suicide Group. But Angie would kind of bring us into what made us look at some changes in how we do a support group.
I think one of the things we found with the support group for survivors of suicide, which is basically family members and friends who had lost someone to suicide, what we found is there's still a great stigma around suicide, and it was difficult for people. We'd have a lot of calls, and a lot of times they wouldn't show up. And I think it's the fear of having to disclose that a family member had died from suicide. So folks would come once or twice. It was really hard, and that's what we heard from them. It was just really, really difficult to connect with people about their grief.
And I think especially in a small community.
Yes.
Because again, that 7 degrees of separation, this is a small community. We call it miniature Atlanta, but bottom line is a lot of people have been here all their lives.
Yes.
And so it is a very close-knit but small community. So I think it's made it even more difficult.
So part of that, yes, there was some fear. They may have not wanted other people to know, because a lot of times, I mean, suicides are not reported as suicides.
Right.
So looking at that, it was difficult to bring people into this, but knowing there was a need, we started looking at some other models, and we talked with Marsha, who's the bereavement coordinator and has been running grief support groups for many, many years, and discussed this idea of a traumatic loss group. And so it kind of evolved from there, because that would still include survivors of suicide, but it would also include all of the other traumatic losses, car accidents, homicides, anything. I mean, there's almost no limit.
Right.
If the survivor considers it traumatic, then it's traumatic. It means it's sudden, unexpected death, and it can be for multiple reasons. And what we really looked at is that's going to be easier to come in to that type of group where everyone has suffered a traumatic loss, and you don't necessarily have to disclose if you don't want to. You're coming in, and we're doing it much more as an educational group.
Right, which is a little bit different too.
Yes, so people are coming in to learn and really feel like it's less stressful, I think, than a support group means you got to talk about your feelings. An educational group is, I'm going to learn. They're also, I mean, as they feel comfortable, will disclose and talk about their feelings, but it's not mandatory, and that's not the
Primary focus.
Right, right. So I think it may be easier for folks, and we know that there's probably a much greater need when you look at folks in this community who have suffered any type of traumatic loss.
And Marcia, I know that, like you said, you've been in the bereavement and grief counseling for quite a long time, and have experienced, are seen and done multiple types of groups. So when Angie approached you, kind of tell us, what intrigued you to come in this direction as well.
Well, through my experience of doing grief support groups for Hyman Hospice Care and at various programs for hospice, we do open our groups to the community, and there is such a need for inclusiveness for folks who have not lost someone to an expected death, I guess, from a lengthy illness. And those folks have such overwhelming needs, and I've tried to include them in my groups, but I think something very specific to meet those needs so that they can be with other people who have experienced similar traumatic events. I think it helps them to normalize and begin to cope with that experience, and I think that would be a very good offering for the community to add into the regular groups that we have in terms of dealing with bereavement. And
because at least personally, I feel like that there's a different type of grief of someone who has been sick for a while, and you know that the ultimate is probably coming around the corner, as opposed to someone who maybe a sudden infant death syndrome, a baby dying suddenly, before they're born, a miscarriage, or I know with my son, he was fully termed, but after the surgery, I mean, he was dead. He had died in utero. Quite a different feeling than when my father died. I grieved him, but it was a much different type of grief from that suddenness of Stephen's death versus my dad, who had been sick for many years before he died.
So many different elements in the grief journey, but any sudden unanticipated loss that kind of shatters our assumptions about the world, about the way things are supposed to be. You were supposed to take home an infant to love and raise. And
exactly.
So there's a lot that goes into processing that grief and trying to return your world to something that you can live with, to change that loss from one of the presence of this person and the anticipation of having them in your lives to what do I do without them? And our grief groups are a good way to begin to process those emotions and learn some new coping skills for dealing with this changed world.
Yeah, to know that you're not crazy.
Yes.
Because I can remember,
feels a lot like crazy.
It does. And Tracy Hardy, in one of his, I think it was critical incident stress management, one of the things he said is we are acting normally to an abnormal situation. And to normalize it, it's okay for me to have this anger, this feeling, this guilt, whatever it happens to be, that it doesn't make me crazy. It means that I need, like you said, learn new coping skills and ways to manage and still live. Because there were times, and have been times, that I really didn't care if I did or not. Not
And
that I would
again-
actively pursue it.
No, but again, that's a normal feeling.
Right.
A lot
Very
of folks with a sudden loss do have those feelings.
That's right.
Not that they act on them, but it's there.
And it makes you feel I'm crazy, or what's wrong with me, or but that is a normal reaction, and many people have it. And to hear that other people do, it keeps you from feeling so isolated and separated from the norm, the population, I guess, in your daily life.
Well, we hope through our support groups that we can help people learn to live with those vulnerabilities, to develop some coping strengths, to do things that help them move forward and put this loss in a place, realizing that it's always going to be with them, but when other traumas come at them, and so particularly with folks who've lost someone to suicide or homicide or even a car accident, the re-traumatization either from a court case or dealing with the insurance company or even the loss of another friend or family member can make things even more difficult for those who are grieving. People don't mean to be insensitive or unkind, but sometimes it's difficult. And a support group can be a safe place to talk about those kinds of issues as well.
Yeah, because I think sometimes talking to your friends, everybody says, "Are you okay?" And your first response is, because that's what the norm is, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." Where inside you're going, "Oh, heck, no, I'm not fine at all." If you could only see what's in here, it would,
Right.
But we put on those masks of, I'm fine, because that's what the social expectation is. And like you said, I don't think people intend to be hurtful, or either they just don't ask. And sometimes I can remember thinking, when you ask me how many kids I have 3 kids. But what I always say, I have a daughter and 2 grandkids. But I had 3 kids. So, it's sometimes it almost hurts your feelings that, well, you don't have, or are they afraid? My mother's always, "I'm afraid I'll upset you." I need to talk about this.
I think that's one of the things even an educational group can help with.
Right.
Is one, people, friends and family often don't say anything because they're afraid of your response and they're not going to know how to respond. And I think that's one of the things in talking with Marcia is you teach people how to ask for help and to what to tell people that will help you, because it is sometimes you just don't know what to say, so people don't say anything.
You're right. And it's not intentional. It's just
No.
they don't know what to do.
They want to help, but they've not had that experience. They don't know what your needs are. So another thing from an educational support group is learning how to tell people what you need and how to access that kind of help and support.
I know one of my friends told me one day, who's had different types of grief, but we were chatting about this. She said sometimes she just breaks down and she'll look at somebody and say, "It's okay, I do that sometimes." and that's true. If the more I try not to do it, the worse it makes it. It festers up, and then when it does explode, it's not pretty when it explodes. But if I could have been able to say, "Hey," and so that really helped. Again, the education part, that really taught me a lot about saying, today I don't really need you to let me cry. I just need to get angry and say the things I need to say. Or, "Hey, don't fix me." That was one of the,
That's a good.
my husband and I had to have that conversation one day. It was like, "But I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix you." And I said, oh, I don't want you to fix me. And he was like, what? You don't want me to fix you? No, I just want you to listen.
Yeah.
But learning how to do that. So when we come back, I want to specifically talk about the program that we've come up with. I'm going to give Angie and Marsha a lot of credit because I feel like I was just kind of there to support. But we'll be right back. Go get your coffee on GHC Coffee Break.
My college offers classes that meet my educational and career goals.
with opportunities outside the classroom.
where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits toward my bachelor's.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
My college is affordable.
It's close to home.
My college has online opportunities.
It's where excellence begins.
We are
We are GHC, Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. I'm very excited to have my guest here. We're talking about a subject that's not that easy to talk about. Angie and Marsha. It's one that it's a social taboo, I think, still. We talk more about sex than we do about death.
I think so.
And, you know, that was back when I was growing up, that was the taboo. But, and people were growing up, I'm 57, I don't care who knows it. You know, growing up, we talked about death, I feel like more. And today it's almost like, and I think with the funerals coming in and a lot of that corporation of funerals and the funeralization of America, is that we have stopped acknowledging we die. It's like if we talk about it, it's going to happen. So, Marsha, I'm going to kind of turn it back over to you and to talk specifically about the program that we have, that you guys have worked on.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share the information that, about grief care. Having worked with grief for the past 27 years through hospice, what you're saying is very true. People are very supportive through the few days of the funeral. Afterwards, the average American bereavement leave is 3 days. That's not really enough. So we deal with grief in the workplace, grief in our churches, grief in our schools. And right after the death, people do get support, but within sometimes days, definitely weeks.
Definitely.
It can be over. And then people are left with this grief that they think they have to push down and not talk about. We allow people to have their feelings, but we want them to be strong around us. and it's uncomfortable to see someone in your workplace who you know is hurting over the loss of a child or the loss of a spouse in a car accident or a heart attack. It can be very difficult. So having a place to go, a place where you can take those feelings and emotions, and even if you don't feel like talking about them, to be able to listen and to learn more about grief, to understand the processes of grief, that grief is a process. It's not an event that we get over in a few days.
Right.
And it impacts us on so many levels, physically, emotionally, spiritually, economically, definitely, cognitively. You hear a lot of people say, I can't remember anything anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be in the workplace. Really worries me when I think about the air traffic controllers having to go back to work after 3 days. It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So, and when someone loses someone in a traumatic event, really their entire world has been shattered, the one left behind to try to put something back together. We really need to be offering really good support. The very fortunate folks have experienced grievers in their lives, someone who's been through something similar, who's willing to share those experiences with them and say, I don't know if this will help you, but this worked for me. I'm here, I'm listening. So an educational support group is an opportunity to do that. So maybe someone doesn't have someone they can talk to. Maybe mom doesn't want to talk with her adult children. She doesn't want to worry them. Maybe her friends have other issues going on. So this is a good, safe place where we can bring our thoughts, feelings, emotions, learn about the process of grief, learn some grief theory. I know that sounds a little dry, but sometimes we need a little theory to get a framework for the words, this chaos that our world has become. Need some words, a framework, so that we can say, oh, this is normal. I can anticipate this possibly happening, maybe prepare for it. And I think that's one of the things that we can offer. We're going to begin this group in June, on Thursday nights in June. We were lucky there were 5 Thursday nights in June of 2017. So from 6 until 8 at Hyman Hospice Care at Floyd, we're going to be offering this educational support group. It is open to the community. We're asking that you call in for pre-registration, just a few questions to get an idea of the folks who'll be coming to groups and things that we can do.
What's that number to call?
706-509-3219.
Okay.
The main hospice number, 706-509-3200, and you can ask for Marsha or ask about the groups, and someone will call you right back.
Okay.
And if you forget all those numbers, just call Floyd Medical. They'll direct you in the right direction.
And that's Thursday nights from what time again?
From 6 until 8.
6 until 8, okay. I want to get back to the program, but before I forget, because I am getting older, one of the things we're talking about educate. I would like to educate the public just for a little bit too, for our purposes of being here, is you know, we were talking about, oh, we've got to be strong. We come back in 3 days, whatever. That being very conscientious. Because I was talking to a friend, a colleague, at one point, and we were talking about how hard it is sometimes when you come back and somebody goes, oh, I'm surprised you're back already. It's like they're almost accusing you of not grieving enough. And I think we need to be really careful about, even on our side, of how we say, you know, oh, you're so strong, and you know, inside you're feeling, no, I'm not, and oh gosh, I'm really not feeling that way, so something must be wrong. You know, it's that it's that double-edged sword. So, you know, on the education side, because that's what we do, you know, educating people that are on the opposite side, that are trying to help a friend, to say, hey, you know, I'm glad you're back. Let me know what's going on. Instead of, oh, wow, you're so strong to be back. It sounds good, but in reality, that person internalizes that like, oh. Right. So it's just something that came up to me, and when you were saying that, I thought, you know, I want to educate the people listening and watching the show that, hey, be aware of your words as well.
Well, and what you said was almost making a judgment. And so I think it's just being very careful that you're not judging or assuming how someone is feeling. And again, just keeping it open. You know, I'm just glad to see you, but not making judgments about someone else's grief and where they may be in their grief process.
And I think that goes back to what you were talking about, Marsha, with the education on the side of the people who are coming into the traumatic grief program, is that they learn to say, you know, I'm really not feeling strong, and you know, this is what I'm really feeling, to communicate, because communication is, I mean, that's the big thing.
Very much so. And for people who are grieving, they're already pretty overwhelmed with the world, and words can really hurt during that time and cause a little re-traumatization. Even people who are trying to be very kind.
Unintended.
And I hope through the groups that we've done, we've helped people develop some personal strengths that aid them in processing the grief. I don't like using that word, but there isn't a good one for it. But you do have to develop some strengths. And one of the things that I have found in the groups is that helping someone else, even while you're grieving, makes a difference.
Yes.
I've seen over the years people reaching out to each other, people developing some long and steady friendships. It's kind of like when you go through some difficult times together, it forms a bond.
Oh, absolutely.
And these folks can understand if someone else has had a similar loss to yours and they see you laughing or going to a movie, they're not judging you. They're saying, well, I'm glad she's taking a little break from the hard times. Whereas other folks might say, oh, she's doing great. She's back out at the movies running.
Yeah.
It's like, no, she's not.
No.
She's
Yeah.
taking a break from the difficulty.
Because you have to. I mean, you have to. I remember.
You have to.
You can't cry all the time and survive.
You can't.
No, and you know, I remember the first movie I went to see after Felicia died. We went to see. We had been waiting for The Green Mile, so that tells you it's been. She died 17 years ago, and going up and asking for 4 tickets. Excuse me. I was supposed to get 3 tickets. Me, my husband, and my daughter. I said I need 4 tickets, and both Jeff and Melissa at the same time say, "Mama, 3," and it hit me. And
all
right there,
over
that
again.
poor woman taking our tickets probably thought, what the, because I just thought, I mean, 3, and I started crying and just said, do you still want to go to the movie? And I'm like, yeah, because we had waited to see this. But yeah, it's that, and processing, while that is a word, journeying through the grief. I mean, that has really, I'm very big on the journey in a lot of my studies. So, you know, it's that idea of, because those things hit you. That first movie, that first Christmas, I didn't think about them. I thought about all kinds, but I never thought about going to the movie for the first time to get tickets.
And do it in order.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I see another thing that I think is helpful to people, and it's part of this program too, is learning how to remember the person.
Yes.
And that's one of the things, talking about when people say things, and it's like, okay, they're gone, get rid of all their stuff, move on, and that is not helpful. People have to remember whoever they have lost in their own way, and that's okay. And that's another thing people have a problem with.
This weekend I went to clean out my barn and found boxes. They were labeled Felicia's boxes. And as I'm looking in them, Jeff says, what do we do with them? I said, I can't throw them out right now. There's stuff in there. I said, I'll go through. And I did. I was good, but I had to do it on my terms. I had to pick out what I wanted to say, I really don't need this anymore. Oh, but, you know, this is something that she loved, a little teddy bear or whatever. So, yeah, I think, gosh, our time is running out. But we've got only about a minute. Marsha, real quick, just say a couple things that the group will include.
Well, the group will include educational information, sadly traumatic loss, and any loss that's viewed as traumatic can come with some pretty difficult trauma. I'm getting my words tangled up here. Post-traumatic stress syndrome is one of the worries, sometimes clinical depression. So there will be educational materials for those whose grief is complicated and interfering with their day-to-day life in a way that's not helping them return to a more healthy and normal status. So,
and I think that's the bottom line.
That educational material and expertise will be available. Awesome. There will be general overview of what to expect from grief on an emotional, physical, spiritual level, things that are helpful. Well, and hopefully just some good support from each other.
Absolutely. Sorry, we have to take a break. We'll be back with GHC Coffee Break.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Boy, the time went way too fast.
Yes.
It's like, okay, they're telling me to wrap it up and we can't stop. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Marsha, for coming. Don't forget, contact Hyman Hospice. Phone number real quick.
706-509-3219.
Thursdays in June at 6 to 8. Thank you, and until next time on GHC Coffee Break.